Hi, this is Voss Graham, and today I'm going to talk about leadership. Why? It's because most people think leadership is all about power and title and dishing out punishment or handing out rewards, rallying the troops, and that sort of thing, and even expertise uh, held by the individual. Well, those are all interesting, and they're there for sure. But that's not the traits of the 10 most successful leaders that I have worked with during my 50 years of experience in business. And I can assure you there are other more important traits. So I'm going to cover the 10 most common traits that I run across with the leaders through every industry. There is no one industry that contains this type of leader, but there are these are traits that go across all industries and all leaders. So I'm gonna just kind of go down the list here. I will start by uh, supporting their subordinates. I know that sounds kind of interesting because most people see leaders as selfish or self-centered, and I hate to say that, but that's a truism. And I've run across a lot of egocentric leaders who lack the self-esteem to balance themselves and take care of their subordinates, and they have a tendency to blame their subordinates in a hurry to take the heat off themselves when it should be just the other way around. The best leaders have a tendency to take responsibility, take accountability, and support their team to the max. They don't sink the ship, but they do support the people to build their self-esteem so that they can perform at higher levels. The second area is intolerance of poor quality or shoddy work. There's a lot of unfortunately, there's a lot of leaders out there that do not stress the importance of quality work and really push that. I have to say that I have to raise my hand and say that in the early days, I probably was not paying as much attention to quality of work as I should have, and it reflected in both my leadership ability and the performance of our firm. However, I did elevate that to a much higher level, and I really try to pay attention to the quality of work. I've always felt like that has been a very important element. My clients tend to love the quality of work. More importantly, they love the results that we furnish and we provide for them. So that's the second one. The third one is the lack of political orientation or focus. Now, when I say political orientation, this is something that I probably ran about a lot. And I know it's one of the key components for my coaching clients. They hear this like a broken record, for those of you who know what a record sounds like when it's broken, but it's over and over and over. It's performance, not politics. If you're playing the political game, you will eventually get burnt, and there's no reason to do it. You become more valuable to the organization, and most importantly, you become more valuable to yourself when you're focused on performance rather than politics. Now, I'm not going to say you ignore politics because it can create some real issues for you, but what you want to do is just be politically aware. That's the threshold that we prefer that our clients maintain. Competencies is most important. You must be competent as a leader, because that's your key. However, you just don't take a magic wand out and point yourself as being an expert or having competencies in all categories. You have to be part of a continuous learning process where you're constantly upgrading your skills, you're learning new things, you're challenging your thought processes. These are the things that ignite higher levels of energy and you become much more valuable to your team as well as the organization, and most importantly, yourself. The ability to admit personal errors and or failures is the next one. Now, there are some people who just refuse to be accountable or to admit that they made a mistake. I mean, they just go kicking and screaming down the hall, not wanting to admit to mistakes. But true leaders will admit when they make a mistake. I mean, they own up. They're real. They say, you know, oops, I messed this one up. That was on me. And they, you know, like I said again earlier, they don't throw their subordinates under the bus when they screw up. They take responsibility. So the ability to admit errors or say that you don't know something is critically important for your own development of self-esteem, which makes you a fuller, more robust individual that will have the personal power necessary for people to want to follow you. Standing firm on their values and beliefs, particularly the values. I want to focus on this. The best leaders have a tendency to know exactly what they want and what they don't want. And it's interesting, when they have a problem, usually it's because they have drifted away from following their own value structure. I find this occasionally, particularly with coaching clients, as we get into certain types of dialogues, we uncover that every once in a while they forget what they value, and more importantly, what they stand against. And you really need to know those things like the back of your hand, and be able to pull those out when you need them, particularly when you're working with your staff and members or team members. So, honest candor and open communication. Now, this one is important. There are introverts in the leadership ranks, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with an introvert. In fact, they're very smart usually. The key is they've got to learn how to communicate. Now, extroverts probably talk too much. So somewhere in there, we have to balance the equation and spend some time just sharing concepts, sharing direction, vision, particularly vision for leaders. You've got to be able to communicate that and be honest in your communication. You cannot cloud the issue with make-believe stuff or just kind of trying to manipulate through only sharing what you feel I need to know. Whereas we have found that the best leaders are open and honest, and they share all information so that the people can make their own decisions and not just be followers, but leaders themselves. It's a concept we call shared leadership. High ethical and integrity demanded. Now, this is another area where the best leaders really show out. They have extremely high integrity. They do not cheat. They do not cause any problems for their organization, for themselves, or their people by being dishonest. I have run across occasions where executives, I mean, we're talking higher level positions, have actually, let's just say, haven't been truthful about the situations. They've taken credit when they shouldn't have taken credit, and they cast out blame when they shouldn't have. When it was on their own platter, and it's demotivating to their immediate reports, as well as folks finally figured out. I could tell you stories about that, like the CEO taking a subordinate or a VP one time who had been catching all kind of heat for things that he had not done, and the CEO started questioning him, and then he presented the information. And this is on a private flight from one city to another, and the other gentleman was not there. And lo and behold, the truth came out to the CEO, and he was not a happy camper because he had very high integrity and ethical standards. Now, the ability to remain calm during chaos and crises. This is another characteristic that the best leaders can pull out, just immediately bring to the table, is they stay calm, cool, and collected no matter what's going on around them. And people look up to those type of leaders who are remaining calm. They're not blowing up. They're not running around like the sky is falling, the sky is falling. They don't do any of that. What they do is they just began to logically go through the situation and come up with a solution as well, much quicker, because they are staying calm and cool. Actually, there's a scientific reason for that, in that the fact that you have two hemispheres of the brain, and in between is the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum, when it's stressed, will not let the two hemispheres of the brain speak to each other. So you only begin to use your dominant brain hemisphere, which is left or right brain, and they have very different select characteristics. And if you're only on one side, this is where the term half-witted comes from, in my opinion. Now, that's just my opinion. I have formed that opinion. Because they're only using half their brain power to make important decisions. And it's much more appropriate to stay calm and cool, because you are the leader. You're the captain of the ship. You've got to make things happen. And the ability to guide the ship during the biggest storms is a critical skill. Now, the last area is the sense of fair play and sharing of success. Great leaders do not share all the acclaim and the attaboys and all that kind of stuff. They share it with their team. They talk about how great their team is. That's the way you can tell the difference between egomaniacs and real leaders, because the ego folks it's all about them, what they brought, what they did, blah, 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 me, I. And it's pretty evident in a hurry who's the difference maker, because the leaders who play fair and share success will talk about we and us, and we were able to succeed in that. We got our goals achieved. And it's just a whole lot healthier for the work environment when the leaders are sharing accolades and successes, and they're not hogging it for themselves just to get a promotion or a bonus. And that to me is extremely important. And I see a lot of that going on in the business world today, where there's way too much selfishness and the lack of fair play in order to get what they want versus what the organization needs. Now, that's it. That's the 10 characteristics. And I just wanted to thank you for your time. If anyone is interested in talking to me, and I would love to talk to you, I would love to see if I could help you with any issue. As you can see, I talk about a lot of topics from growth, sales growth, to revenue growth, to leadership, to strategy, and solving major problems. I was a turnaround guy for 5 years, so I know how to put a company back together that's having some issues. And anyway, not to blow my horn, but I would love to be able to have a chat with you, see if I could help you. This is not a sales pitch. I don't believe in sales pitches. I'd rather have you, ask to do work with me than to try to convince you to do work with me. So just go to callvoss.com. Callvoss.com. It's pretty simple. Callvoss.com. Fill out a little short background information. So I'll have some information that'll speed up our conversation, and then you schedule a best time for you. It'll pop up on my calendar, and then you and I will talk. And it would be an honor to serve you. I always love to help people. That's my goal. That's my purpose, is to help people get to that next level. So with that, I want to thank you, and we'll end this video.